Good morning, y'all. This is Mrs. Tucker. I want you guys to get out your packet that you picked up called Reduction or Enlargement. We're going to do that one today. Okay, so you all picked up a little rectangle, little sheet of paper with a rectangle on it called Original Rectangle. It says, given a rectangle with the following measurements, highlight the length in green and the width in yellow of the original rectangle. So you're going to need either two different colored markers, pencils, or highlighters. Whatever you choose for the length, that color will always be your length. Whatever color you choose for your width will always be your width. I'm following the instructions and I'm using green for my length and yellow for my width. All right, here's what we're going to do next. On number 1, it says use the centimeter grid to create a new rectangle with dimensions that are 2 times the original rectangle. Label the length and width of the new rectangle. Okay, I went ahead and marked my original rectangle on here. It had a length of 3 and a width of 2. Here's my width, here's my length. It said make it 2 times bigger. So here, and I want you guys to write this on your paper. All right, my original length of 3 gets 2 times bigger, and my original width of 2 gets 2 times bigger. So when you do that, your new width is 4 and your new length is 6. Okay? Now let's draw our new rectangle. There's my new rectangle. They want you to label the length and the width of the new rectangle. Here is my length, here is my width. And on part A right here, it says on the new rectangle, highlight the length in green and the width in yellow, or whatever colors you chose. Oh, by the way, if you need to stop this video at any time, you can. If you need to back up, you can do that also. All right, so I've highlighted my length green and my width yellow. Now we're down here to part B. Is the new rectangle an enlargement or a reduction of the original? It's an enlargement. How do you know? How do you know it's an enlargement? Write it in your own words. I said it's an enlargement because the length and the width increased proportionately. They both got 2 times bigger. Okay? Here's something else before we go on to number 2 that I want you to notice. And if I were you, I'd write this down on my sheet because this could become a set of notes for you. Okay, take a look at what we've got up here. We've got the original width and the original length, and I multiplied them by 2. I'm going to call that a scale factor. And the reason I'm going to call it a scale factor, this number's a factor, that number's called a factor, and this one, when you multiply them together, it's called a product. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and call that a factor. I'm going to call it the scale factor. And there's something I want you to notice here. That scale factor is the product divided by the original, or it's the new length divided by the original length. If you look at this, the scale factor is the new length divided by the new width divided by the original width. Did you notice that? We're going to call the 2 a scale factor. That's how many times bigger it got than the original. So I'm going to say that the scale factor is the new width or length divided by the original width or length. Write that down. You're going to need that when we get to problems 4, 5, and 6. Pause the video here if you need to. Moving on to number 2. Use the centimeter grid to create a new rectangle with dimensions 1/2 the original rectangle. Label the length and the width of the new rectangle. Okay, well, my original had a length of 3 and a width of 2. They want you to draw a new one with dimensions that are half the original. They want dimensions that are half the original. What's half of 2? Yep, it's 1. What's 1/2 of 3? 1.5. Okay, draw your new rectangle. Make your width 1 and your length 1.5. They want you to label this the width and label this the length. And in part A, they want you to highlight the length in green and the width in yellow. Reduction or enlargement video number 2. Okay, where'd we leave off here? Is the new rectangle an enlargement or a reduction of the original? How do you know? Well, here's the original and here's the new. It got smaller, so we call it a reduction. How do you know it's a reduction? Put it in your own words. I said it was a reduction because the length and the width decreased proportionately. Here's something else I want you to notice before we move on. Right here, see my scale factor of 1/2? If I take this, the new length, and divide it by the original length, if I take this and set it over that, 1.5 over 3 is the same as 1/2, because 1.5 is 1/2 of 3. The other thing I want you to notice, this guy right here, which I put right there, is my new length divided by my original length. Here's the new, here's the original. New, original, new, original. So guess what? My scale factor is the new length divided by the original length. Did you already write that down? I hope you did. Let's go on to number 3. Use the centimeter grid to create a new rectangle with dimensions that are 2.5 times the original rectangle. Label the length and the width of the new rectangle. Well, here we go. Here's my original. It had a width of 2 and a length of 3. They want the new one to be 2.5 times the original. I'm going to multiply both the width and the length by 2.5. Well, 2 groups of 2.5 gives you 5. 3 groups of 2.5 gives you what? Yeah, 7.5. Come on, old computer. It's thinking. There we go. Now they want you to draw and label the new rectangle. Here's mine. It's got a length of 7.5 and a width of 5. Down here it says on the new rectangle, highlight the length in green and the width in yellow. I've done that. Is the new rectangle an enlargement or a reduction? How do you know? It's an enlargement because. Why? Okay, one other thing I wanted you to notice. Right here. If I take my new length and divide by my original length, I get my scale factor. And if I take my new length here, divided by my original length here, I get my scale factor. So, did you guys know that the scale factor is the new length divided by the original? Yeah, I hope you learned that by now. That's going to help us with the next problem. Let's take a look at the next problem. Number 4, the dimensions of the rectangle drawn below are blank times the original rectangle. Okay, let's fill in our length and our width of our original rectangle. Here's the original. Remember, it had a length of 3 and a width of 2. Let's count and see how long our new length is and our new width. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my new length and my new width. How are you going to figure out what number goes in the box? How are we going to figure that out? Oh yeah, I gave you this little equation that said what? Scale factor is what divided by what? That's right, it's new divided by original. The new length divided by the original length. Okay, well let's use 9 divided by 3. What do you get? What if you use 6 divided by 2? I think you get the same number, don't you? What's 9 divided by 3 and 6 divided by 2? Yeah, it's 3. Our scale factor is 3. Now I want you to answer question B. Is the new rectangle an enlargement or a reduction of the original?